Why you don't trust yourself. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you can keep promises to other people, but somehow keep breaking the promises you make to yourself? You tell yourself you'll wake up earlier, exercise tomorrow, stop procrastinating, or finally begin the life you've imagined. And for a moment, you truly believe you'll follow through. But somehow, the pattern repeats. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Eventually, the disappointment becomes so familiar that you stop expecting yourself to change at all. Most people think this means they lack discipline or motivation. But psychology tells a very different story. The real problem isn't that you can't change. It's that, little by little, you've stopped trusting yourself. Every broken promise quietly teaches your brain that your own words no longer carry weight. And once that trust begins to disappear, even the biggest dreams start feeling impossible. In this video, we'll explore why self-trust quietly shapes every part of your life, how you unknowingly lose it, and most importantly, how you can begin rebuilding it one small promise at a time. Confidence is not the same as self-trust. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is believing that confidence and self-trust are the same thing. They are not. Confidence is believing you can succeed at something. Self-trust is believing that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself along the way. Think about it. You can feel confident before a job interview, a presentation, or a new opportunity. But if things go badly, do you encourage yourself to try again? Or do you become your own harshest critic? That answer reveals far more about your self-trust than your confidence. Psychologists have found that people who trust themselves recover from setbacks much faster because they don't see failure as proof that something is wrong with them. Instead, they see it as information they can learn from. Confidence may help you start the journey, but self-trust is what keeps you moving when confidence inevitably fades. And in the long run, the relationship you build with yourself matters far more than the temporary emotions you feel before success. How you quietly lose trust in yourself. The loss of self-trust rarely happens in one dramatic moment. It happens through hundreds of ordinary decisions that seem too small to matter. You promise yourself you'll start on Monday, but Monday passes. You decide to exercise, but choose comfort instead. You tell yourself you'll finally have that difficult conversation. Yet once again, you stay silent. None of these moments feels life-changing on its own, but your brain is always paying attention. Every broken promise becomes another piece of evidence that your own words cannot be trusted. Over time, your mind quietly adjusts its expectations. Instead of believing, "I'll do what I said," it begins assuming, "I'll probably quit again." That invisible shift changes everything. Motivation becomes harder to find. Goals begin to feel unrealistic. Even opportunities that once excited you start feeling intimidating. The tragedy is that most people blame a lack of discipline, when the deeper problem is that they have unknowingly taught themselves that their own commitments no longer mean what they once did. Stop making promises your future self can't keep. One of the fastest ways to rebuild self-trust is surprisingly simple. Stop making promises that your future self is unlikely to keep. Many people believe bigger goals create bigger motivation, so they promise to wake up at 5 every morning, exercise for 2 hours, or completely change their lives overnight. But when those unrealistic promises are broken, the brain doesn't remember the ambition. It remembers the failure. Psychologists have long known that repeated success strengthens self-efficacy, while repeated failure weakens it. That is why small commitments are so powerful. Instead of promising to read an entire book, promise to read one page. Instead of committing to a full workout, commit to putting on your running shoes. These actions may seem insignificant, but every promise you keep sends a new message to your brain. My words can be trusted again. Self-trust isn't rebuilt through dramatic transformation. It grows quietly through dozens of tiny promises that you consistently keep, especially on the days when nobody else is watching. The way you speak to yourself changes everything. Imagine having a friend who responded to every mistake by calling you lazy, hopeless, or incapable. Eventually, You would stop believing that person supported you. Yet many people speak to themselves this way every single day without realizing the damage it causes. Self-trust cannot grow in an environment filled with constant self-criticism. Research on self-compassion has consistently shown that people who respond to setbacks with understanding instead of harsh judgment are more resilient and more likely to persist after failure. Being kind to yourself does not mean lowering your standards or making excuses. It means treating mistakes as lessons instead of personal verdicts. The next time you fall short of a goal, ask yourself a simple question. If someone I cared about made this mistake, how would I respond? Then offer yourself that same honesty, patience, and encouragement, because the voice you hear most often is your own. And over time, that voice becomes the foundation upon which self-trust is either strengthened or slowly destroyed. Build evidence instead of waiting for motivation. Most people believe they need more motivation before they can finally change. But psychology suggests the opposite is often true. Motivation is rarely the beginning of action. It is usually the result of it. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you create a new piece of evidence that you are someone who follows through. That evidence slowly becomes more powerful than positive thinking because your brain trusts actions far more than intentions. Instead of asking, "How can I feel more motivated?" ask, "What evidence can I create today?" It might be making your bed, finishing one important task, or taking a 10-minute walk when you said you would. None of these actions will transform your life overnight. But together, they begin rewriting the story your mind tells about you. Self-trust is never built by waiting to feel ready. It is built by collecting undeniable proof, one consistent action at a time, until your identity naturally begins to change from the inside out. Create systems that support the person you want to become. People who trust themselves rarely rely on willpower alone. Instead, they build systems that make keeping promises easier than breaking them. Think about the habits you repeat every day. Most of them happen automatically because your environment quietly guides your behavior. Your toothbrush sits where you can see it. Your phone is always within reach. Your brain loves routines because they reduce the effort required to make decisions. The same principle can help rebuild self-trust. If you want to read more, leave a book on your desk instead of hiding it on a shelf. If you want to exercise, prepare your clothes the night before. Remove as much friction as possible between your intention and your action. The easier it becomes to follow through. The more evidence you collect that you are someone who keeps your word. Eventually, your habits stop feeling like forced discipline. They become part of your identity. And self-trust begins to grow almost automatically because your daily system supports the person you are becoming. Become the kind of person your future self can rely on. There comes a point when rebuilding self-trust stops being about completing tasks and starts becoming about shaping your identity. At first, you wake up early because you want better habits. Later, you wake up early because that is simply who you are. This shift is powerful because lasting change happens when your actions reflect the person you believe yourself to be. Every small promise you keep sends a quiet message to your brain. This is the kind of person I am becoming. Over weeks and months, those messages accumulate until they form a new identity built on evidence rather than hope. You no longer need to convince yourself that you are disciplined, reliable, or capable. Your daily actions have already done that for you. And once your identity becomes stronger than your temporary emotions, keeping promises no longer feels like a struggle. It feels natural. That is the moment self-trust stops being something you chase and becomes something you quietly live every single day. Trust is built in the moments nobody else sees. The greatest test of self-trust does not happen when everyone is watching. It happens during the quiet moments when nobody would ever know if you gave up. It is choosing to finish the task after a long day. It is keeping the promise you made to yourself even when excuses feel completely reasonable. Those invisible decisions matter because they shape the relationship you have with yourself. Every time you choose action over avoidance, You reinforce the belief that your own words still carry weight. Over time, that quiet consistency becomes something far more valuable than temporary motivation. It becomes inner certainty. You stop wondering whether you can rely on yourself because you already have countless examples proving that you can. And once that belief takes root, setbacks lose much of their power. You no longer see a difficult day as evidence that you have failed. You simply see another opportunity to prove, once again, that you are someone who never stops showing up for yourself. Final reflection: the relationship that changes everything. If there is one thing to remember after watching this video, it is this: the most important relationship you will ever build is the one you have with yourself. Every promise you keep, every excuse you overcome, and every small action you repeat is teaching your brain whether you can be trusted. Self-trust is not created through one life-changing decision. It is built through hundreds of ordinary moments when you quietly choose to keep your word. So stop waiting until you feel more confident. Stop believing you need perfect motivation before you begin. Start proving to yourself, one small promise at a time, that your actions and your words belong together. Because the day you truly trust yourself is the day you stop depending on constant encouragement from everyone else. If this video gave you a new perspective, comment the number 1 below. Let's see how many people are ready to rebuild the one relationship that quietly shapes every decision, every dream, and every future version of themselves.